everyone, welcome to episode 118 of A Stitch in Time. Today's Tuesday, October 15th, 2019. My name is Carol. I am known as Knitsnpurls on Ravelry, and I am coming to you from my home in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far from Vancouver. A special hello to any new viewers who might be watching for the first time. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out the podcast. I hope you like what you see and that you'll be back. And of course, hello to all of you returning viewers. I appreciate so much that you've come back to spend some time with me once again. This is going to be one of those Take Me As I Am episodes. As you can no doubt hear in my voice, I have come down with an autumn cold, but I really wanted to record once again before I leave for our trip on Thursday. I think it's going to be a rather short and sweet episode in any case, so it shouldn't take too long. As I was preparing to record, I realized there were two major themes going on. One was cold, both the illness and the temperature, and the other is socks. But since cold socks doesn't really have much of a ring to it, I've decided to name this episode Cold Feet. See that? You know where that came from. I am drinking something. I was going to make a cup of tea and I'm kind of tired of black tea. So I have this. It's called Organic Cold 911. It's from David's Tea. It's a little sample that came in my last order, and it says it's an herbal infusion tisane, soothing minty relief. So it has peppermint, apple, juniper berries with natural eucalyptus and orange flavoring. What I can smell smells kind of medicinal. I'm guessing that's the eucalyptus. So it's still too hot, haven't had a sip yet, but I'll let you know what I think of it. I also have a big glass of water, whether it is the decongestant or just breathing through my mouth a lot. I'm not sure, but I'm just finding my mouth really dry, and I've been just drinking lots of hot and cold fluids and hoping that that will help flush all of this out of my system very quickly. Before we get into the knitting, I want to remind you that the Elsa Knit Along is going on in the Ravelry group. This has both a chatter and an FO thread, and runs until November 30th of this year. I'll announce winners on the first podcast in December. There will be a winner from each thread, and I have now posted a picture of the sock themed project bags that are up for grabs. So I will hope you will all come by and join in the knit along there. All right, so I have a finished project. Surprisingly, I did not expect these to be done, but I ended up with more knitting time this weekend than I'd anticipated, and so I have managed to finish I guess it's the fourth pattern in the Handmade Sock Society 2 by Helen Stewart. These are the Cornish cream tea socks. So they are knit out of Black Cat custom yarn. The luxury sock, which has some cashmere in it, that's the pixie dust colorway. So I started these way back in August. I kind of set them aside while I was working on other things, and was glad to pick them up and then kind of motor my way through the I guess I had last week, I think I had showed you the first one that I'd finally completed, and then I finished the second one this week. So once again, I'll just flip this front around to give you a better look at the front of the sock and the really pretty design that runs up it. So not very much to say about them other than it was a very enjoyable pattern to knit, although like any pattern, by the time I get to the end, I'm glad, oh sorry for the sniffling, I am glad to be done, but definitely did enjoy this pattern. Like most of Helen Stewart's patterns, it's a combination of just enough interest to keep your attention, but it's simple enough that you can knit on them while talking to other people or watching TV or things like that. So I actually did get a lot of these done while visiting with relatives this weekend. So yeah, very pleasantly surprised to have those to show you this week. And I think I told you last week that the 5th pattern was coming out on Thursday, and it did. These are the sailing school socks. Not sure how well those are showing up. As you can see, I did print it off, but it might be a little bit pale. Anyway, it's a very plain sock with just a column of kind of little cables running up the side, sort of the front side of each sock. So my first thought was to knit them out of quite a deep blue, like a royal or ultramarine blue, but then when I pulled it out of my stash, I thought it might be too dark to show off that panel of cabley stitches, and so I settled on this one. I've had this in my stash for quite a while. It's from Tanis Fiber Arts. You can see it's a kind of a blue and gray tonal yarn. It is Tanis Fiber Arts Blue Label Fingering, which is an 80/20 merino nylon, and this is in the shadow colorway. Not sure if I'll show it to you like that. Tanis Fiber Arts. That's a Canadian company, and hopefully you can see that. So I cast those on last night after we got home from our weekend away, and did the cuff and a couple of repeats, and so that gives you an idea of how they're going to knit up. So like I say, except for this little column of stitches, the rest is just plain stockinette. So these should work up fairly quickly, I think. So liking those so far too. Sorry, sniffling. I'm trying so hard not to sniffle. Maybe it's time to try a sip of this stuff. Can't really smell very well. Can't really taste it either, which maybe it's a good thing. I can taste some peppermint in there for sure. Not much else, but it is nice and hot and feels good on my throat. Ah, the phone. I'll be back. Sorry about that. As I suspected, it was my husband. Once again, I forgot to text him before I started recording in order to avoid an interruption like that. So where were we? Socks. More socks. I have one last pair of socks to talk to you about, and that's just my pair of plain vanilla ones that I am knitting out of this Regia 4-ply in the We Love Denim color 6669. They'll knit up something like that. The yarn is actually a lot more blue than it appears in that photo. Looks more gray in the photo, and there is some gray, but it's mostly a kind of a light and darker blue mix. And I've knitting these socks. I'm pretty well decided for my brother-in-law Ed, and they're my usual 72 stitch on a 2mm needle. That's what I do for a typical man's sock. I've knitting them 2 at a time or concurrently on separate needles, and I've reached the same spot with both of them. It's hard to tell because it's curled up, but I'm right at the end of this part in the patterning. And I reached that just as we were pulling into town yesterday afternoon, or early evening, I guess, by the time we got home. So it's kind of ended in a good place because I'm contemplating how much longer, if at all, I'm going to make the legs before I start a traditional heel flap and gusset. So a little bit hesitant. I think I have enough yarn to do another 1/2 inch to 1 inch, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. Once I pick up for the gusset, I may end up with just like a really narrow stripe of this color, and I kind of would prefer to have a better transition, but I don't know. And honestly, I don't think Ed will mind one way or the other. I do like a little bit longer cuff, so that's probably what I'm going to do. So yeah, I'll take those with me on our trip because it'll be good to have a pair of completely plain socks to work on while I'm gone and on the way to the airport and home again and such. So this yesterday was that's all I got for knitting. Yesterday was Thanksgiving here in Canada. I hope all of my fellow Canadians had as nice a Thanksgiving weekend as I did. Friday after work we voted because we have an election coming up on the 21st. Federal election, but we're going to be away, and so we went to the advance poll. So we voted on our way out of town and then headed up to the cabin for the weekend. And it was cold up there. They had snow earlier this week, and when we got there Friday evening, there was still some snow lying around in patches on the ground and on the roofs. Then we woke up to rain Saturday morning. So the weather all weekend really was not that great. Definitely Friday night, Saturday felt a lot more cold than Sunday because by then the cabins had warmed up and the sun even came out for a brief time on Sunday afternoon. But still definitely fall and really, in a way, winter's in the air up there. My mom was saying that all the yellow leaves had turned brown since the snow had fallen. The cold just kind of finished them off. But at times you'd kind of would catch your eye and you think it would be snowing, and it was actually little yellow leaves blowing down. So it was quite pretty. So there were two purposes for going up this weekend. One was to celebrate Thanksgiving with some family, and the other was to close up the cabins for the winter. And so there wasn't too much in the way of jobs to do leading up to Monday's closing, other than some meal prep and a few odd jobs. So that's why I got more knitting done than I expected. And then yes, Sunday we had my cousin and his family, which includes two like a son and a daughter, and then his son is married and has two young children, 5 and 3. And then 3 of my sisters were there with their husbands, and my niece with her husband and her little 1-year-old who turned 1 on Friday. Yes, he turned 1 on Friday, but we celebrated with some cake on Saturday. We also took that opportunity to do our fall birthdays celebration. We try and get together 3 times a year and do our birthdays in bunches. So this was the perfect opportunity to do that. And then, yeah, my mom, of course, was there too. And then for Thanksgiving dinner, we invited a couple that live close by that are practically like family, and they're very good to my mom. They do a lot for her. So we had, counting kids, we had 22 people for dinner. But we all shared the load. My cousin's wife cooked the turkey and did the stuffing, and the rest of us provided all the rest of the parts of the dinner. So nobody went hungry, I can tell you that. Oh, I'm going to put a picture in here. My sister and her daughter did this fabulous vegetable tray as an appetizer. Isn't that cool? not sure quite how long it took to put it all together. They had got the idea, I think, out of a cookbook. Anyway, it was really cool. So then, yeah, Monday we got up fairly early, and a lot of jobs can't be, well, we can't shut the water all down till we've sort of done the final cleaning of bathrooms and emptying the fridge and cleaning that out, etc. And so once that was done, it didn't take too long to drain the lines to each cabin and then drain the main water tank that provides water to all of us. So it was all done, said and done by noon. And then my mom and Cameron and I stuck around for about an hour more and did photos for my newest sock design. I was looking at the weather all weekend, and it was so miserable, and things were still wet, so some of the places I thought we might use as backgrounds or areas were simply too soggy, but all in all, I'm quite pleased with how the pictures turned out. My mom got quite into it. It was, you know, it's one thing I know what I want to achieve when I take photos of someone else's feet. It's another thing to try and get someone to do the same for when I'm wearing the socks. And so gradually she kind of got the gist of it, and then she was suggesting, oh, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? So it was quite fun. But man, was it cold that morning. There was a bit of a breeze, and I know some of the shots that I looked at on my computer, I could see like goosebumps on my legs. We were pretty chilled by the time we finished the photo shoot. But as I say, I'm quite pleased with how they turned out. So I just have sort of done the final draft of the pattern, but once I get home from holidays, I will go over it once again, make sure everything is as it should be, and then write up the descriptions for Ravelry and my Etsy shop. And if all things go as planned, that pattern should be up and running early November. And so, yes, we are leaving on Thursday for Europe. We are on a cruise that is put on by my husband's company, and we are going along as hosts. So it's a working holiday, but we've been fortunate enough to have done this every 2 years since 1999. We have seen the world thanks to them, and we're looking forward to this trip just as much as the others. We begin in Athens, and then we have stops in Greece and Italy, and end up in 2 stops in Croatia, 1 in Montenegro, and then we end in Venice. We have 2 days in Venice, and I am really excited about that. We were in Venice for 1 day last year and didn't even begin to scratch the surface of what there was to see there. So that's the part of the trip that I'm most excited about. So we're gone until the 28th, and I know that once I get home I'm going to need to settle in and get rid of jet lag and all that. So I'm hoping to podcast the first Tuesday in November, but I'm not making any promises. But I should be kind of all back to normal by then. So that's 3 weeks from now. I should mention that my internet is going to be pretty sketchy while I'm gone. So if you leave a message and don't hear back from me, please don't take it personally. I will definitely get back to you as soon as I can. So I hope you are all well until then. Take care of yourselves. As always, thanks so much for tuning in today and watching, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. I'll try and get some footage while I'm away, but no guarantees. But I'll try and put something together so you get a little taste of what I experience in the next few weeks. So take care, everyone. Happy knitting, and I will see you soon. Bye.